We're ready. Okay. Let's bring the city council meeting to the order, June 4th, 2018. Roll call, please.
Councilor Westover? Here. Councilor Warren?
Here.
Councilor Baker?
Here.
Councilor Snyder?
Here.
Councilor Shunk?
Here.
Councilor Cameron? Here. Mayor Lex?
Here.
Thank you.
Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Without objection, I'm going to add one thing to the agenda this evening, presentation by Colleen Padilla with So Ready. Have her presentations coming right up. You Colleen doing that, guys? Thank you. And our high school liaisons here. They're not. So, Ms. Padilla, you're up
Wow,
for
that was so fast.
I told you we're quick, right?
You guys were fast.
Lots of fun, huh?
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Colleen.
Counselors, good to see all of you. I think that most of you are familiar with this already. What I brought with me tonight was just kind of a recap. I'm not going to go through every page. You have it in your packet. It's not as glorified and large as this one, but you do have something in your packet. I just wanted to jump quickly to our vision and mission. So let's go to page, on my page 3 looks like this. Couple of graphs, I think you have them on. Sorry, I don't have the same copy as you. Just as a quick recap, So Ready serves all of Southern Oregon. It's 300,000 people in our community, 13 cities, and includes the town of Butte Falls, I added to that city category, and 2 local counties. It's about 140,000 people in the labor force, and back in February, our unemployment rate was pretty low. Though it's not the lowest in the nation. We took a call today, a presentation with a lead out of Minnesota, and they're at under 3% right now. So we're not the tightest market. But what's important about this particular page to me is the worker destination report. Can you see that? And this is part of an overall unifying message that So Ready wants to help all of our communities come to and seeing us as a region. All of our communities are very unique, from Butte Falls all the way to the city. We all have great things to offer. And oftentimes we think about, we just want to land something in our own city, a new business, or see something happen. And this report, this worker destination report, talks about how many workers in Jackson County commuted to Josephine County every day, and how many commute from Josephine County to here. So if you look at this, you're going to see that 17.2% of Josephine County commutes to Jackson County every day. And conversely, about 5% of Jackson County goes to Josephine County. So the workforce is going both ways, and that's just one example. we have the ability now to get this information from the employment department. And I can tell you about 100 people commute every day from Siskiyou County, Oklahoma, to Jackson County. And so this really underlies my point that we're a region and we can be stronger together as a region. Just to unify what we've been saying all along. We're in our 31st year of business, but just wanted to show you that report because that's a relatively new report that we can now get from the employment department with census data. The next slide is about our vision. Our board of directors just this year went through a process really to say, what is it that we do, why do we do it, and what's that aspirational vision. Many of you may have heard me say before that what we want to become is the best regional business climate on the West Coast. That's a pretty lofty goal, right? And vision statements are supposed to be aspirational, and that's our goal. And you'll see in this packet, I have a staff member with me, Michelle Manning. She's our most recent hire, and she's working on some very specific things for us, going out and visiting many of our sponsors and underwriters and such, but she's actually asking a couple of questions as we go along. So you actually have a page in there, and really what we're trying to find out is like, what does that mean to you when I say best regional business climate on the West Coast? How would we actually measure that? In your mind, what's important to you? Is it, make up whatever, whatever you feel is important to you, we would like to know. We would like to have that feedback. And we also want to know just how you perceive Silver is doing in the region based on your knowledge. I know many of you may be not all that familiar with us yet, but we always invite your questions. So I just wanted to point out that our vision, again, the most business-friendly region on the West Coast. What's our mission? It really is to advance business in our region, and launch, relocate, and prosper. Our core values are very responsive. We like to say that we're ridiculously tenacious. We get things done. We are very resourceful and persistent. We're going to follow up and we're going to do the best that we can always. And so after we had a staff meeting recently around these core values that we have, as Red Degree we walked out and somebody said, that's just ridiculous. And we're like, what? What did you say? Ridiculous. And so you've all been invited to our annual meeting coming up in just clouds at the end of this month, June 29th. We're going to take the jet boats down the Rogue River. We have done this before. We don't have big venues in Josephine County where we can get 230 plus guests, so we just go down the boats. It's a little bit more casual, but we have a lot of fun. So we're going to get some highlights. We do Prosper Awards, which are business awards. We're going to have a change of president. Our current president is Aaron Osland, who is with Osland Group, developer construction company. And then our incoming president is Steve Vincent with the Vista Utilities, if you've heard that name before. So you'll see a page there on our Ridiculous team, lots of history. He works, we are the enterprise zone manager. And that, we don't have any applicants right now in Phoenix, but one day we will, because we really look at your PH5 property, that future property for employment land, as a great opportunity for Southern Oregon.
That is part of the enterprise.
Right, and that is part of the enterprise zone. So what does enterprise zone mean? And there's lots of stats behind this that talks about it. There's actually 3 current zones. The Medford urban zone, specific to the city of Medford. There's one called the Road Zone, which currently includes Josephine County and Grants Pass, all of it. And there's another one called the Jackson County Rural Zone, and that's the one that you fall into. So we manage all 3 of those zones. There's some e-commerce overlays, not currently on Jackson County, but it could come back in the future. We've processed well over 150 applications since 1997. It's a $342 million investment in our region, and about the equivalent of 12,450 jobs. So let me tell you what enterprise zone is. It's not quite understood. It's property tax abatement in exchange for the new investment that a company would provide. So in your case, it'd probably be a new company. Perhaps we'll land in that PH5 property, and let's say they're going to create just 10 jobs and build I'm making up numbers here, a $5 million facility. They could get property tax abatement for a few years, 3 years. They don't pay the property tax, and that's in exchange for creating those jobs and making that investment.
The jobs have to be considered high income or decent income.
There's two pieces to it. The standard is a 3-year property tax abatement. They could get 5 years if they reach 150% of Jackson County's average wage. So, but that is wage plus compensation. So right now that number is about $60,000. So if there are 10 employees that they're gonna hire, if it's a new company, honestly, it only has to be one job that they create. If it's an existing company, they have to create 10% new jobs. But let's say it's 10, and they have, their average wage is 60,000, that's the wage and benefit, then they can qualify for 5 years of property tax abatement. It's one of the few incentives in Oregon that is out there. And so we talk about that as one of the best selling points of our region as in terms of incentives, and the fact that we're just a lower cost state for doing business in pure operating costs, lower workers' compensation rates, the fifth lowest in the nation. And it is between us and California, in case you were interested, there's like a 40% differential. And then when you talk about utility expense, that's hugely more expensive in California also. So that's why we see an influx of California companies or folks moving from California often. But it's not the only state that we have better costs of doing business. Everyone, it's hard to believe this sometimes, but we're one of the top 10 best business climate states in the nation. They take all the taxes and they create an average there. Sir, do you have a question?
Yeah, so on the property tax abatement, just so I'm clear, how does that affect the city's income? If the businesses aren't paying property taxes, do we miss that chunk then coming to the city?
For the 3 years.
3 years.
But there are clawbacks, and so this is a program that was created by the state legislature way back in the late 80s. They have to agree to certain things, they have to hire those jobs, and if for some reason they don't meet the minimum that they have to create, if it's an existing company, they have to create 10 jobs. If they don't meet that, they pay it back. There are clawbacks. And it's only for traded sector. And what we mean by traded sector is most of their business, 51% of their business comes from outside the region. It does not apply to retail. Okay? Jackson County also allows hotel and motel development in the rural zone. So theoretically, if you wanted a hotel, that hotel could get the property tax abatement for those 3 years. And why it's important to keep that and have that is so that none of our communities are at a disadvantage against one another. We've worked very hard at SoReady to make sure all of our communities are in an enterprise zone so that, an example I use frequently, you're probably all familiar with the new Costco location. That's on industrial land, and on one side of the street, it's Central Point, and on the other side of the street, it's Medford. And many, many years ago, and it was SoReady for 17 years, we had a company considering putting a facility right there. But at the time, Central Point was not in the enterprise zone. And so then we started looking across the street, just literally across the street at some other industrial property. In the end, that project did not happen, but they had put down money for a piece of land in Rogue River. And eventually they didn't do that either because they found an existing facility near where they live, where they are based now. But the point is, we don't want any of our communities to be competitively disadvantaged. So right now, there's only one community in our region that does not have an enterprise zone, and it's Jacksonville. Primarily because it doesn't have any industrial or commercial land to speak of. So I hope that answered your question. So there are clawbacks. They also have to sign what's called a first source hiring agreement with the employment department, which is really tracking the job creation. And there's a whole bunch of other agencies, the Oregon Revenue Department, and then also the assessor's office. There's a lot of agencies involved that are going to hold them to that. We don't charge anything for the service or anything like that, but it starts with me. Actually. So that's enterprise zone.
I have a question real quick.
Yes, sir.
On the tax abatement, let's say it's 3 years, and the city does have good faith knowing that after the business is underway, they'll receive taxes after that, right?
That's correct.
Is there anything to ensure they don't leave after 3 years?
There's nothing to ensure that they don't leave after 3 years, but I would say that if they invest in a building and that real estate, I think now most businesses are pretty savvy about, they don't wanna move twice. I mean, there have been cases, there was a case up in Eugene, Springfield area years ago, that after it expired, they left. But I don't think it was solely because of that. I think there were other contributing factors. As we know, for all businesses, there's all kinds of uncontrollables, so
Sure.
it could happen.
They leave behind improved building. They leave behind improved building.
That's true also, that's true also. Now, it's just the property tax abatement, they will still be paying system development charges you may have, or other things like that, to get started, but we're really trying to make it an easy place for them to come and choose. And we have, I was sharing with Mayor Luce recently that the gym in Southern Oregon, First Phoenix, is that piece of property for future employment lands that's so close to the freeway. So we look forward to exploring opportunities with that in the future. There's several slides here again that just break out where those enterprise zone applications come from, etc. This was a presentation I gave to the Oregon Commission recently when they were here. We do things like site consultant tours. We've done those for 7 consecutive years. Looking at this photo right here, and we brought those folks in. The reason we brought in site consultants over those years was to introduce them to Southern Oregon and get Southern Oregon on the map. The last 2 of those 5 years, we actually brought real projects here, and it's we host them. We pay for the airfare, their hotels, their guests, everything, and they get to meet a lot of community partners, do a lot of fun things, and see what we have to offer. We actually do have a success where we had a company come out and actually is now in White City, landed that manufacturer. They ended up actually acquiring another company because they could not find that existing facility. And I can share more on that later, but they came out and left the area and started figuring out how they make it work. And they're actually getting ready to make another expansion. So that tells a little bit about that. Many of you have probably seen our Southern Oregon edge profiles before, or business profiles, as they call them. If you've flown in and out of the airport, you may see them on the wall, on the windows between the TSA area, and as you exit, there's several of them there. And then we have over almost 45 of them created now. They're all on our website. And it's been about 4 years since we started that. The idea for that actually came from one of those consultants who came out and said, the strength of your region is all these phenomenal small businesses that exist, but nobody knows about them because they're small. And there's actually a number out there through the employment department that says there's about 400 manufacturers in our region, 400, and 60% of them have fewer than 19 employees. So they don't have the big marquee. So we're out there all the time finding these companies, trying to figure out how do we help them grow, because that's the heart of what's already exists to do. We have existing companies, let's help them grow and find resources. Because more jobs will be created and retained for an existing customer than us going out and finding one to bring here. Okay. So this talks about our edge profiles. There's a picture of some of the profiles that are on near the baggage claim. If you want to go on this, the baggage claim is there. Another thing we started doing also was connecting those profiles to actual careers in the region. So you'll see a visual of that. And all of these posters that talk about great careers right here at home was to answer specific requests of the businesses. Where are our future workforce? How do we make those connections? How do we let the students in our region know about that? So we created those posters there in all of the high schools and also at Road Community College, and we continue to develop more of those career posters. And hopefully in a few months I'm going to come back and tell you about our next thing, which is So Ready Quest. And what we're doing there is we're creating a digital hybrid game. Everybody share this? Okay, so again, we're trying to answer where are those future workers for our businesses who are struggling to find skilled laborers. And what it will be is a digital hybrid of a scavenger hunt and the Great American Race as a competition for in high school. And they will go for scholarships, and they're going to have to dig into all of these profiles to find the answers. It's a competition. We have a local coder right now creating the web platform for it, and it's in a beta test in September with 4 schools, being North and South Medford, Eagle Point, and Grants Pass High School. So about 1,000 sophomores are gonna see these profiles, and it will be for scholarships. So stay tuned for that. We expect that to be a hit. We're excited about that, and it's being developed right now. Something that may matter to you that you may want to talk more about later on, when you turn to a page and it says virtual building flyers. One of the challenges we have in our region is we don't have large facilities. I was really pleased to see, Summit Beverage finally occupied the, what used to be Associated
That was
Fruit
nice.
Building. That was fabulous. They were a loan client of ours a while back. But we don't have large existing buildings to show anyone, so we came up with an idea just to create a real estate person, kind of like, what would it look like if you bought this land? And we went through a process of explaining to them where the assets are, where travel distances, the infrastructure, all that sort of thing. And so at least we have something to represent, like, here is your building, what it could look like on this piece of property. Okay, so that might be something that we could really help you with when we get to a discussion later on about how do we master plan or work with whatever your vision is for that page 5 to really sell it before there's actually a building there, right?
We're
And
gonna
promote
pick
this.
calling people later on. They might ask us to stick around. I didn't do it actually. Just stick around and talk or help us out with the economic development council. Here in town.
So one of these actually is a property right down near Harry and David that we went to an architecture firm to do some actual renderings for us based on a specific size so we could get to some detail. There's more that we could do, but at least now we have a representation of some properties. We have 5 or 6 of these in Jackson County, none currently in Josephine County. But I think it's a real opportunity to come together and work together when you get definitive plan for page 5. Let's see, what else? Many of you may know we do quarterly industry tours also. Those are for educators to get on the bus and go to the businesses to learn what's a job look like at Boise Cascade. We have a industry tour this week actually in Medford and White City. We'll be visiting Erickson Air Crane and a couple other businesses. We actually have educators on the bus. So this is the biggest challenge we have right now in our region is where's the future workforce going to come from for our local businesses. We do a lot of business group facilitation. One other thing I will mention, and I don't want to take up too much more time at this point unless you have a question, but Surrey also has a gap financing program. So many companies and entrepreneurs in our region don't necessarily have enough years as a business to go get traditional bank financing. So this is where the federal government comes in for us as Surrey. They're actually a EPA economic development district. They lent us money many, many years ago, 1994, so that we can then re-lend to businesses for gap financing because they can't get through bank. They still have to have a great business plan. We still got to do certain things, but we're much more flexible, and it's not a return on our investment. We looked at job creation and job retention. So we have lent about, it's now $19 million during the time that we've had this program, and you can see a little bit more down there. But fixed rate, fixed term, very creative. Here's an example of Debbie's Diner, right here in your community. That was a loan claim years ago. So there's many of them out there. But this is the one area where Surrey does actually have a service offering for retail or commercial businesses. Otherwise, we're mostly a traded sector where we're looking for those companies. Most of their wealth comes from outside the region, bringing in new wealth. Let's see. I'm going to skip over the launch symposium. We actually had to cancel that. And the last page talks about press, which I've already addressed. And so I would just, if there's a question now that I can answer, I'd be happy to take that. There is a page that talks about challenges. I mentioned seed capital for entrepreneurs, low supply of industrial lands and facilities for large projects. So we're looking for page 5 and even the adjoining or the abutting property that Medford owns as future employment. We had our EDA representative here. I think it was January, we had a joint conversation with the city of Phoenix and Medford about potential of a south stage overpass to reach that land. We also have a workforce housing shortage, of course, as you know. We also have liberal employment laws, and I put liberal on that because that's actually the word a project used, several projects have used when they said, we're not coming to work. So we track that information when they're willing to give it to us, like what made you choose, you know, Phoenix, or Dallas, or we're trying to understand where we could improve. We don't have a lot of incentives either, and I mentioned the workforce, so, is there any questions right now that I can answer? I should say try to answer, maybe I can't answer them, I don't know.
But you're gonna stick around for a while, right?
Yes, yes, the last thing that's in your packet, this just came out in the Southern Oregon, now they're called Travel Southern Oregon magazine. We also have a lot of fun, so you might look at that as, you know, some of the top 5 reasons to move your business to Oregon. There's no pocket full of pennies. Think about that and read that one. You can cancel your Sirius XM radio subscription. You can cut your own Christmas tree. You don't have to pump your own gas. I personally love that. And then you will finally be able to fit your directions on a cocktail napkin. So we like to be creative instead of just, you know, throwing out a bunch of serious data. We're very, you know, as our, you have our invite again for our annual meeting, we like to say that we're seriously playful in Southern Oregon, but we're wildly serious about business development, and that's why we exist, and we appreciate your support.
Thanks, Colleen. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Kate, did you have anything you want to present with regards to high school? Okay, thank you very much. Next up on the agenda is the consent agenda. You absolutely. Thank you. I don't think anyone signed up though. Anybody want to comment? Is there anyone who signed up on the sheet up there? Is there anyone who wants to comment on anything that's not on the agenda? All right, thank you. Let's move to the consent agenda. And the trustee have all looked at it. Is there anything that you guys would like to pull for discussion? No? Okay. I'll accept the motion to approve, if you like.
I'm going to approve the consent agenda.
Second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, consent agenda is approved. Next up is the approval of an employment agreement with the city manager. I guess I've run into the mayor of Shady Cove a couple venues over the past couple of weeks. He's wanted to hit me for taking Aaron from their city. That's a good sign, but we're gonna have Dave speak to the contract.
Well, it's fairly straightforward. City manager contract provides for a base salary of $90,000 a year. Per the council's request, we are providing an incentive for him to stay for at least a year, which is basically a $5,000 signing bonus payable in 2 increments of $2,500. Same health and retirement benefits provided for the rest of the city employees, 3 weeks paid vacation, city paid membership at OCCMA and ICMA, and I did express to Aaron that the council considers his participation in those organizations and his continued professional development to be very important to you. I think he's on board with that. This really is, it's a pretty standard city manager contract. It makes it very, very clear that he's an at-will employee who serves the council's pleasure. One thing that Chris did ask me that I think would be a good idea, I'll have it for you by the next meeting, is the council really should talk to Aaron very early on about what are the criteria that we're going to use to evaluate you, so that everybody's very clear about that. And I will try to pull together some examples that you can take a look at, or maybe just a template that you can use for city manager evaluation.
So they'll go through an informal review for 6 months, formal after a year, and ask Dave to put together some criteria to measure performance against, and he's gonna put it together for us.
I did request we get that put on the council agenda calendar, so I know it's coming.
And I would encourage you to actually discuss it with Aaron, rather than just unilaterally coming up with something, handing it to him and say, here, this is what we're going to evaluate you. It needs to be an iterative process.
Should we have a special meeting for
You don't need one, and you can't discuss in an executive session.
Right.
I mean, the evaluation itself, you can do in executive session, but the criteria that you're going to use, you have to discuss in open session.
I think Dave probably set an example and he comment on it, give some feedback, and we talk about that in open session.
Dave, do you have like an ongoing project plan or a work plan that you've started for the next city managers that you potentially use as a part of that conversation?
I wouldn't really call it a work plan. The work I did for Eric Swanson was I put together a very lengthy and detailed memo for him about all the things that I had been working on and all the things that I saw coming down the pipe that he needed to be aware of and work on. I would definitely do the same thing for Aaron, but it isn't a work plan per se.
Is that something that we can use though, or a modified version of that, something that you see as projects that are coming up that we can incorporate also into if we're coming up with criteria for what somebody's going to be measured against within a year's time to be helpful to have some of that context?
Yeah, we could. The city manager evaluation tools that I know that I personally use in the past tend to be a little bit more generic and to focus on maybe half a dozen areas that are critical to the success of a city manager. Maintaining staff morale, keeping the council informed, keeping recommendations free of bias, and those sorts of things. And then within each of those categories, having subcategories that you can actually measure and discuss. The nature of the job is that you need to allow some flexibility and fluidity in terms of what projects the city manager is working on and accomplish, because things change, new priorities arise, you can't anticipate the next crisis. But certainly in doing an evaluation, I think it's important that we do a look back on, okay, what did you actually accomplish in the last 6 months? What did you accomplish in the last year? But I'm not sure that I would lock into a laundry list of things that you must accomplish in order to evaluate what you
More questions regarding the contract? Okay, great. I'll do the motion.
I move approval of the employment agreement with Aaron Quigley as presented.
Second. More discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Shunt,
Yes.
Counselor Snyder,
Yes.
Counselor Cameron,
Yes.
Counselor Westover,
Yes.
Counselor Warren,
Yes.
Counselor Baker.
Yes.
Thank you. Was there anyone in the audience that's here because of liquor license that was on the agenda? No? Okay, got it, thank you. Next up is discussion of a economic development council for the city of Phoenix. Now, we do have an ordinance which does specify that we do have an economic development council. It's been on the back burner for a long time. It talked about having, I think it's 15 or 17 members as part of the council, part of the development council. And I asked Kelly to stick around because, as you can tell, she's really into economic development. And one theory is that the city has their own economic development council that puts people on it and has a council. Another theory is that you use outside resources to do that, or a city manager, or remove board of directors. So I'm gonna just, as council requested, open up to some discussion, and I'm also gonna have Kelly come up a little bit. And we'd rather have her talk first and what she can offer us as far as economic development board resource or alternative.
Sure, why not?
All right, let's do that then. One minute, wait. I'm gonna delve into your vast resources of knowledge. Well, we're thinking about putting together, back together, economic development council in the city. And it's a one area to use Solred. So why would we use Solred instead of doing it ourselves? What do other cities do? What kind of experiences can you put towards us?
So I'm not familiar with what was in your thought process there.
Just a shelf, just a template.
I would say, so right, if you're a member of Solred, we stand by to assist you with projects. There's a lot that we do to help you promote and that sort of thing. I can tell you what other regions do. So at the Grants Pass and Josephine County actually formed a joint committee to work on this together, which is fabulous in our mind because that's a unifying message. And what I will say is that when we have had those consultants visit our region, like I mentioned earlier, the thing they have said often is that any one of us as a little community, including the city of Medford, is really small to get their attention. That they really need for us to focus on a regional approach and looking at as one workforce, one workshed, as you will. And that coming together is more powerful. So I think that there's enough, there are sources out there for you to utilize this already. We do have a board of directors, 28-member board. It does have several cities on it. Currently, there's not a position on the board available, but I think that you don't need to be on our board necessarily in order for us to assist you with something. So if you have an idea, like a virtual building, I'm not sure what you might be thinking that you want, but we would love to be involved so that when we are talking to companies, we know what your vision is, we know what you're aiming for, and then we can say, hey, you're actually, that'd be a good fit for what you have planned for Phoenix. Your proximity to I-5 is a huge asset for you. And that property that we mentioned earlier is a huge asset. So maybe we could brainstorm together and think about something. I'm not sure it has to be a whole council, maybe it's a subcommittee first of all to say, what do you think you want? And then we could say, that fits in our wheelhouse, we could probably help you with that. We are actually an access point also to different resources that come through Business Oregon and the federal government. And so we wanted to go after some sort of technical assistance grant from EDA, for example. They're going to call me and say, what do you know about this project? So we should probably be involved in some form anyway, even if it's just to be a liaison for you if you do some sort of committee or council. I mentioned earlier to Mayor Luce that there is I call it a trade show. It's not really a trade show. There's a conference of sorts that happens in Las Vegas every May. And what that is where major retailers and developers come to that show to look for opportunities. And a lot of communities are there also. And in the past, the city of Medford has attended this. They did not since this year had local real estate developer attend this. And then this year, the city of Grants Pass went. And they're fairly large, but they're still not that large, just to find out what the opportunities are. And so I would advocate for a unified approach, you'll hear me say that frequently, and maybe there's an opportunity to go to something like that together and really talk about Southern Oregon and all the assets that we have. We take away from your specific message, your one, Mayor Luce is going to retire at this, but we have this analogy of a crown, and there's multiple jewels in that crown. And the crown is not complete without any one of our wonderful communities. We have something to offer. And so I think going together and promoting the whole region, because pointing back to that worker destination report, you may land some sort of great company or something here, opportunity, but most of the workers probably aren't going to live there, or some percentage are going to live in Medford or elsewhere. So we really need to look at it as a region. I think there's an opportunity, and I'm gonna reiterate myself again, is to come together around something that's unifying and speaks to the whole region, because even if something lands in Grants Pass, it should matter to all of us here in Phoenix because of that job creation, especially given that we do not have a sales tax in Oregon, and we're very dependent on the income tax. So a job anywhere in the state of Oregon helps all of us. Something I would preach a unifying message.
Do you have any questions for Colleen in the context of our discussion regarding setting up the economic development council here in the city?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I do. So you keep saying unifying, I'm confused. What it is that you're proposing? Are you proposing, is there already, or are you proposing a new regional economic development committee, or does that already exist?
No, I guess what I'm saying is, rather than go it alone,
Uh-huh.
maybe there's some other communities, small like you, and we talk about a larger effort together, because even the city of Medford is considered small out there to outside consultants, so.
So what does that look like to you? Do you think, when you say we should unify as a region, does that mean having a regional economic committee, or what does that look like in the context of Silver?
I think that you can utilize this as a resource for sure. I think that if you want to get together with, let's say, the city of Talent, or some of the ones running, I mentioned Grants Pass and Joseph County, they have a joint committee, so they have equal buy-in over there. That was something that they had a consultant come and suggest to them. I guess my underlying thought is not to just do it on your own and because you're just too small to attract someone. Look at your strengths together, and that's something we've been promoting throughout the region is know. So if you do have someone come to your region and they say, wow, I'm just not finding what I have here, you know where to point them next. You know where there's an asset elsewhere that will match them. So it's really, our regional perspective is really getting to know all the assets, businesses in our region, things like that, so we can really promote the whole region. We want, of course, you want it to, whatever it is, to land in Phoenix. I'm thinking from the recruitment side of trying to get new companies in, but that may not be what your council or committee wants. I think you need to decide what it is you want for your city. Ask us to participate and help you figure out where we can plug in and assist you. We're here to be a resource.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to create something totally new. Let's start with a committee and just flesh out ideas and pick one or two. We're guilty at Surrey of having 10 things on the list that we want to do, and then we don't necessarily do them all the best that we can. So pick your highest priorities. And I don't know what that will be for you right now.
Gotcha. Thanks for clarifying. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome, and no reason to apologize for asking a question.
Anybody
You
else?
should ask
Yeah,
questions.
I guess I did.
Well, thanks, Colleen, appreciate your input.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again for your membership and your support.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Mayor. We did bring this is a poster that really talks about unifying message starting on. We opened it. We probably should have done this first. We've been out giving this to all of our members and businesses and we need to figure out our presentation style.
No, it's more suspenseful this way.
It's very suspenseful this way, so look at that side. We're gonna get to new one in there because it's new for, because we're not very. It says that it's a Vincent Van Gogh, talks about a rope being strong, and it says great things are done by a series of small things brought together. So you can do a small thing. Pardon me? Oh, yes. I forgot to throw it back there. So it's just really a start.
Got a question?
Yes, sir.
Is that a him?
No, I think it's just downright
Well, Council, one on the agenda, I'll open it up to discussion. As part of our strategic goals setting session, it's when I put on the agenda. I know, I think you know how I feel about developing the council. I talked about it during our strategic planning sessions. Action, have at it. Anybody want to be recognized?
I think it makes sense for us to do something in this category, especially with, the UGB coming into play, starting that planning process about how we get businesses to come into those spaces, as well as for our downtown. Also, I think it's kind of a timely conversation personally. I also saw in our, the FERA plan, I think, that she has calls for us to make a nonprofit committee that we can then use to apply for various grants and other things that cities may not apply for.
How would that work? I mean, I don't, city have a nonprofit?
Yeah, so it's in the plan.
Community Development Corporation.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with how they work, so.
Me neither, I'll be sorry.
So many mostly focuses on kind of larger businesses and relocation businesses, right? Not smaller retail for city centers and things like that.
I would say, one of our focus areas is to recruit companies to the region and is a traded sector. We don't work in retail.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, more commercial industrial and people in jobs will support retail.
That's
retail.
correct,
I understand that. I was just, we're prioritizing and sequencing, because obviously PHI is a very big deal, but are we looking more at city core right now and city center? We want to focus there and move on, or do we want to do these kind of concurrently? Just food for thought.
Should the chamber be part of this conversation?
Probably.
Yeah. Economic business.
We do have our chamber liaison here.
Let's have
Quiet one.
give us your words, tell us, speak.
Well, it only makes sense that you align the two, because in having a committee have the goals and go over what our current plans are. And I agree that there needs to be some kind of an economic development council.
Given our trouble with filling our committees right now, I wonder how much activity we would have in another.
That is a concern also, especially a large 15-member one.
15 minutes, that's a lot of people that's waking up, It'd be cool, but wow, come to get in there.
Most of those members would be this roundtable.
This group here. So I
Yes,
guess,
Dave's
I guess my thoughts are right, is we've already pretty much got the committee sitting here.
We've got a big portion of it, so then we'd be adding a couple potential developers. I think it's spelled out exactly who we're supposed to have.
Maybe we can add, like we do the budget committee where we have citizens and.
We developers also.
I think it states.
It says, it does,
There's
so,
stakeholders represented.
Yeah. Developers are a great resource.
but it's not, but it doesn't say it in the document, which is what we were talking about.
Yeah, one member from industrial, one member from retail, one member from manufacturing, two members from So, yeah, we're looking at, and three Phoenix citizens as well.
So,
Go. I was just gonna say that, I think that the current iteration probably doesn't make a lot of sense. I think we should probably, if we are gonna create something, look at what our needs are, look at what's not being met, look at what's already being done by the chamber, look at what's already being done by So Ready, look at what's already being done by the Urban Renewal Agency, because we don't want to just create a new organization that does all the same stuff that's already happening. I think the goal is that we want to create some kind of like connections, but we should probably have a discussion about what's missing before we create a new commission. And probably
I
not.
like that, figure out what we got, then
Yeah.
we'll figure out what we need.
Should we make a commission to?
Yeah, study session, yeah.
I was waiting for you to say study.
Dave, do you have any experience with these?
Now, as I said in the agenda report, we could not find another city that has a council or commission.
So what is our action plan moving forward? Because there's no motion or anything we made on this, right?
Just discussion.
You know what, though, we've already got all the gear here. I mean, this is, are we kind of doing this already? I mean, are we, or are we? No.
Thank you, Lance.
Just so you know, a couple of cities did email back, and their answer was, that's what our urban renewal is for, and Netherlands said that's what we have planned for.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Those are-
those are- Change your hats, guys, and we'll be the other one.
We'll start at 4:30.
That's right.
So is it something along the lines of right now, we're going to table the future of the Economic Development Council and focus more on our other resources? Ideal?
Maybe we could revisit it in a few months, after we get the pause building up and going, see what's going on downtown.
Well, finishing up my thrust of what I want to do when we talk about it in the planning section, either current resources, land or urban renewal, so ready. I don't think we need a 15-member committee to go at it to help us out with economic development. That's my thought, but I wanted to, of course, hear what council has to say. They've had a couple of comments also.
Well,
That comment is.
You can smile about it. I think the city already has an economic development council, and it's city council. And typically, in most communities, retail and mercantile development improvement is kind of like, it's a chamber of commerce. And I think the type of trade sector or more regional approach that's so ready presented tonight would be very valuable to Phoenix, especially when you start expanding sort of growth boundary. And I think beyond direct recruitment work, and again, Sorority going to do recruitment work on behalf of the region, not on behalf of Phoenix per se. But I think Sorority can open doors and provide information about resources that would be very valuable to the city, and just connect you with some of the resources, even as they continue to fulfill their own mission. So I would suggest repealing this code provision. Because obviously it's a body that has perhaps never met and never been with anybody. And seeing if there isn't some way to energize your Chamber of Commerce as a partner in working with you on downtown development, because that is going to be retail and mercantile. And to the extent that you can, once the city starts expanding to the north, get more engaged with soda. That's what I would do.
So can we make a motion this evening to repeal the code that contains a provision creating the Economic Development Council?
Well, you don't need to make a motion directing staff to bring an ordinance.
Yeah.
Do you do an ordinance to remove an ordinance?
Yes.
You have to.
That's how, that's what. This be after a few hundred years, it was good to bring a lot of
So let's get a concurrence from council, that's what you're gonna like the direct staff to do.
Yes.
We'll allow staff. to-
Create an ordinance to cancel the ordinance.
Aye.
Repeal the ordinance.
Okay. Staff, clear on what we want to do.
Okay, clear?
Anything else, guys, on the economic council discussion?
I guess I have one question. Would it make sense to do have a study session at some point with Chamber of Commerce?
Yeah.
Bring them all in and just have let's talk about downtown development. Sort of competition.
I also include the planning commission in that.
Planning Commission, Public Works,
So they're really
Chief can come if he wants to.
Planning commission really scratching the bit, probably something.
Sure.
And invite them to, yeah, so that'd be great, just to do that.
Maybe we'll do a study party.
That'd be fun. Yeah. All right, well, thank you very much. And Kelly, you want, you have your hand up so I can go. I appreciate you coming tonight, stay.
Yeah.
Okay.
there are two things that came to my mind that I might have shared earlier. There is another city in the region that is considering having the same challenge of how to attract development. And they're actually having a conversation with Surrey about going to Lake Portland, for example, and having a reception in which they invite future developers, just to learn about Southern Oregon. There's an opportunity where we come together unifying, and we have representation from other cities also to do that. We don't know that that's gonna happen, but it's just, we brainstorm on these things. That'd be, an opportunity, or the show that I mentioned that's in Las Vegas every year.
Vegas show sounds good.
Yeah. So, there's stuff, that's right.
How's that kind of Vegas show, Chris? Sorry.
So that's one thing, I mean, just to look that, and come alongside another community too. Because what's really important, we're learning about future generations is they're very interested in collaboration and feeling like they have input and this and that. They don't like this territorial, this is what we're hearing from the younger generations. So this just gives you an opportunity to hook up with another
Keep
community,
it posted.
potentially do something, right, for the whole region. The second thing I wanted to share, and I didn't mention it earlier, but I'd forgotten, was we actually have quarterly meetings in which Evan participates. For example, we get together with the planners from every jurisdiction once a quarter just to brainstorm great ideas, talk about best practices, learn what's working, for example, in Central Point that might apply to Phoenix, or, things that they can work together on. We have some ideas on that too, to be more collaborative. That's the unifying message. Like, we're doing some of that in the background for you also, so that we're all here. So I think it's a wise decision to kind of table that and utilize some of the resources you already have a more robust conversation about what do you want. Ms. Wester was very good about saying we should decide what our needs are first, and then figure out what those top two things are, and then maybe it's a Sorority thing, maybe it's a collaboration with 2 or 3 of the communities, maybe it's completely out of our wheelhouse, and we have to find a resource for you, which we might know one. Okay, because we're pretty connected throughout the state with other cities and resources. So,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Next up on the agenda, the second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 994, an ordinance of the city of Phoenix for establishing offenses of chronic nuisances. That one, you guys the changes that you made.
Yeah, I made the changes that were recommended. That is on page 46. It's not read now, but if you look at my computer screen, it was. It's down there at 8.22.550 So there we brought up there's a reasonable suspicion that the activity or behavior, whatever is related to this chronic nuisance is related to domestic violence, as that's defined in other parts of our statute. It's very clear in terms of how law enforcement looks at these things. Then this is just, so this chapter just does not apply to that situation, okay?
Does that have to be read out loud?
Yes, and I will, but there's one other correction I want to make too. Councilor Snyder pointed out to me, and I recognize what I did wrong on this one, because that's on page 48. Look at 8.22.595. It's at the bottom of the page there, and it's referring to a tenant. And the reason, and it says it references an ordinance that doesn't exist, because I took it out when I revised the ordinance. And it says is that a chronic nuisance property brought under 8.22.030. I'm going to change that to 0.560. And I'll explain it here in just a second what 560 means. But I remember doing this because this tenant section was taken out of an entirely different or out of a different area of the statute than the chronic nuisance, and so I was borrowing it when I did it, and I didn't think about changing that when I was recorrecting it, And 560 is just the action to restrain or enjoin nuisance jurisdiction remedies. So that's the operative thing. If an action to restrain or enjoin a nuisance action, this is where you look to find out, okay, this is what I'm allowed to do, or this is what law enforcement's allowed to do. And in this case, it just should be 5.560 and remove the amended as or as that little section. So I'm going to reread this for you. Hopefully I made this sensible. And so the section that I would change here for the second reading is 0.822.550. It's on page 46. We will add section 4D, which states, notwithstanding enumeration of those offenses in this section, comma, any reasonable suspicion that activities, comma, behaviors, comma, or criminal conduct are related to or associated with circumstance of domestic violence or family violence as defined under ORS 409.290 are not subject to this chapter, period. And then on page 48, I would amend 8.22.595, ORS 105.595, action to abate nuisance not affected, other remedies, exception, colon, relocation costs, period, section 2. I'm going to read the whole thing here for a second, okay? It's going to read like this. A, quote, tenant, close quote, comma, or open parent, as defined by ORS 90.100, open parent 16, close parent 16, close parent, of chronic nuisance property brought under PMC 8.22.560 may be entitled to reasonable relocation costs, comma, if without actual notice the tenant moved into the property after the property owner or his/her agent received notice of an action brought pursuant to this chapter, period. Any allowable cost will be determined by the city, comma, and shall be a liability upon the owner of the chronic nuisance property, period. Open parent 3, close parent, a victim of abuse is entitled to relief from violation of the chronic nuisance subject to PMC 8.22.560 if shown by preponderance of the evidence that the owner is the primary cause of the nuisance activity, period. Those would be the changes. Otherwise, everything else is what you read. Questions? Sorry.
But do the changes satisfy you guys' requests?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to add before I open the public hearing?
I think this is just, I don't know the public hearing is open for this. I think this is you're deliberating. This is, well, actually, no, you're right. This is okay.
It's scheduled.
Here. You know, we're gonna open the public hearing.
Yeah, that's right. Very good.
All right. So, we'll open the public hearing, second reading, and public hearing of ordinance number 994. Anybody want to speak in favor of ordinance 994?
I will.
Well, let's state your name. You have 3 minutes and press your comments to
3
council.
minutes. Should be able to do that, I work in TV. So,
Cut.
yeah. 30 seconds. Anyways, thank you guys again for taking the time that all of you have taken to put an effort into trying to help us figure out what to do to help our city be a safer community, not only for the residents, but for the new businesses that you're trying to attract. So I would just ask that you truly consider passing the nuisance ordinance, again, on behalf of the welfare of the people that live here. Certainly not asking you to put anybody out of their home or make anybody's lives more difficult than what they may be, but at the same time, our police department needs to have the tools in order to be able to deal with situations like what we've been dealing with across the street from us. So there's many communities in our neighborhoods here, I mean, there's many areas in our neighborhoods here that maybe have the problem that we have, and they don't have the support of the neighbors that I've been fortunate to have. So there's literally there by themselves living in terror, and it's not fair. The police department should be allowed to do their job and be able to enforce what's enforceable,
But at the same time, when you have a chronic problem over and over and over again, we also need the ability to protect ourselves, whether it be using the police department or maybe some of the laws that our city puts out for its community. So I just want to say thank you again for taking the time to consider it. And again, it's not something that we're trying to do to harm anybody. It's more about protecting us all in the future and having the ability to stand up for ourselves when we need to and not have to worry about being sued from one party or the other. You know, if right now you've got this nuisance ordinance and everybody's reviewing it, and God forbid if something were to happen and we don't take a look at passing it, now we're open in that way. So I just want to say, let's look at protecting the city as a whole, not just me and my neighborhood, not just the residents that live here, but the entire city as a whole. Businesses, students, families, people who come in and out of the city. So thank you again for taking that, all of the time and effort that you put into putting this together and to listening to what we're going through here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak in favor of the ordinance? No.
May I?
Come on up, John. We're here for. State your name and address.
My name is John Courtnier. I'm the 508 Orchard Place. I'm in support and I appreciate the time you give me to sit here. All I can say is we need a resolution to some of these problems. It's not only something that can be good for us in our neighborhood, but something good for the city. We're looking for a resolution to a lot of these problems, and you know, we're not trying to take people's rights away. One thing I heard the last time was maybe something about, you know, someone walking down the street with a gun, or well, God bless, that's our right, and it is, and we don't want to take that away. But what we're talking about is, you know, these people with warrants walking down there with guns, these multi-state parolees, and people on probation, and that have drugs on them. That's what we're talking about. That's one example. And a lot of these things in these ordinances kind of go hand in hand with a lot of these things. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else who should speak in favor of the ordinance? Anybody else wishing to speak against the ordinance? I'll now close the public hearing. Thank you very much. I'll go to council deliberations. Is anyone to recognize?
I just have an educational question. It's about processes. Here we talk about the damages, or actually the damages not exceeding a certain amount of $10,000. $10,000 has a certain value, purchasing value today. But as inflation kicks in and time passes and gets several years down, how do we handle the diminished value of a $10,000 fine? But now it might be the equivalent of $12,000, you know, 7 years down. We have to come back and amend this and build in a CPI kind of thing with this, or what would you normally do?
If we come back, I think the most easiest one is to come back to amend. The reason 10,000 it so happens that's what small claims limits on. So instead of creating something that's greater than small claims, if anyone ever wanted to, or if that works, that number again is kind of used in statutes elsewhere. So in this case, if you really needed to expand the damages, you can, and that would be at a time when, you know, we probably have to deliberate as to whether or not it's worthwhile to expand the number. Normally $10,000 is a pretty good number that would stop most people from a lot of big things.
Yeah, it's my,
I understand.
it's interesting that price of small things are just there.
Yeah, you can look at it, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just one.
Anybody else?
I just wanted to again say thank you to the residents for telling your stories and you know, for coming out here and being on top of this issue. Also want to thank our staff for going into this. and for also addressing some of the process things that we had to address as council on our end to make sure that this ordinance will stand the legal test, and will also make sure it doesn't have unintended consequences for victims, for people who suffer from domestic violence, from children in abusive households. And I have full confidence that the people who are helping to execute this law will do it judiciously and understand that there's a range of people that this could apply to. There's certainly, people who are out threatening and harassing people and carrying guns, and then the 75-year-old neighbor who hasn't cut their lawn because they're too poor and they're not able to. So there's definitely a range. Lots of discretion is required, and I have full confidence in the people who will be executing this ordinance and their ability to do that and to use empathy and compassion and good judgment. But thank you again for coming out. It's an interesting topic.
A little more succinctly, I'm just glad we're putting something together, go after the bad guys and protect the good guys.
Yeah. I love that you guys had through it. Hopefully, once this is remedied, you guys will have one of the cul-de-sacs and 30%.
We already do. I think we got a big police barbecue coming up, so.
Guys, hopefully it gets some good in there, it gets better than you guys will have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further deliberation?
I'm just glad that it's written to protect potential victims like Sarah is having. It's important to protect those people.
Sure, for sure.
And it's also written to protect you people. And I'm glad there's representation on both sides, and that's, I think, that it's most important that we allow, that when you have cul-de-sac or neighbor situations and there's conflict, they're going to resolve one way or the other. I'd rather have it resolved by the police. If the neighbors can't figure out how to get, I'm not saying you can't, I'm just saying in the end, it's better if the police can come in. We have a great police force taking care of that. And since it does also protect potential victims, I really support it.
Good job all the way around. I'll, once there's any more deliberation, I'll accept the motion.
I move approval on second reading of ordinance number 994, an ordinance establishing a fence for chronic nuisance. Hasn't been.
Second.
Any more deliberation? Roll call, please.
Councilor Baker,
Yes.
Councilor Shunt,
Yes.
Councilor Snyder,
Affirmative.
Councilor Cameron,
Yes.
Councilor Westover,
Yes.
Councilor Warren.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ordinance passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Good for your efforts. Next up, the second reading and public hearing of ordinance number 995, ordinance of the City of Phoenix adopting fees for building permits and inspection fees. Staff on it? That's good.
No, thank you, there are questions.
Okay.
There's really nothing to add since last time, although I am pleased to report that I got most of these fees put in our new building permit forms that we picked, so I'm very happy.
Nice.
Do we also staff on that anything, or what's this go? So I will open up the public hearing, the second reading public hearing, ordinance number 995. All those wishing to speak in favor of the ordinance, please come on up. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition to ordinance number 995? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, open up the deliberations. Anybody want to recognize?
It's very hard work,
Yeah.
I cannot claim responsibility for that. I'm glad. Northwest Boat Pros did all the hard work on this, and another reason why we like them so much.
What's up the motion?
I move approval of second reading of ordinance 995, an ordinance of the City of Phoenix to adopt fees for building permits and inspections.
Second. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilor Warren,
Yes.
Councilor Baker,
Yes.
Councilor Shunt,
Yes.
Councilor Snyder,
Yes.
Councilor Cameron,
Yes.
Councilor Westover.
Yes.
Thank you.
Unanimously. Thank you. Staff reports? Anything on the board?
No, nothing that I've got on.
City manager? Go on the table. Council reports? On the board, anything?
I have nothing on parade yet.
Okay, cool.
Nothing from the chamber, I was on that night.
Just a reminder, dog is summer July 28th. Put it on the calendars.
Thank you.
And for this month's CPAC meeting is happening, Wednesday, the 13th. We moved the time to 3:30 to accommodate a birthday party or graduation for one of our members, I can't remember which. That'll be at City Hall, and I think that's it.
We have a ribbon cutting coming up on Friday at noon for the volleyball court over at Blue Heron Park. I happened to go by the cemetery to take some pictures up for Memorial Day, and all the flags are out there. Happened to be a gentleman from Portland, he's been coming out for 50 years. He's part of the Payne family, you know, Payne firm. He's been on 50 years, and other family was to join them. Yeah. So we were enjoying the following day, but the cemetery looked absolutely marvelous. Lots of flags out there. It looked really, really, really nice. That's all I have.
Just a question. How locked in are we yet to the date and time for the new city building? It's locked in. Why, not changing? Where?
Exciting place.
I'm just wondering if there's been some delays in the building construction.
I've been watching that, and they have assured me that it will all be completed by July 14th. I ask weekly.
I'm having everybody ready. Okay, with that said, we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Your deal.
What's your deal, Dave? Dave, what's your deal? Get out of here. I think so. You want to take a look at it? Yeah, I don't know.
That way I'm gonna be back in the office.
I know why I still. I ran 4 miles. I ran 6 miles. But it's not.
How about that?
But it was probably